Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one! Another one!
Another
one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit him!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. It is Monday. Well, it's Monday. Can't say much more than that. Start of the week, but it's going to be a good one. I look outside and I see zero clouds and a forecast that says 61 degrees for the high today. Hello. I'll take that any day of the week right now. That's like that's springtime for us, baby. We'll take it. Hope everyone's doing well. A lot of people already on the Andy Moore Honda hotline waiting to get at it. Hello to Matt, Forrest, Scott, Michael. I see a lot of names, or one name that keeps popping up, Juwan. Yeah, we'll be talking about Juwan Howard, all right. Man, oh man. That's I don't even know what to say there because I was not in the scrum. I don't know what precipitated that throwing a punch, but man, that is a gigantic big deal. Five Lefts, how are you? It's not his first. This is not his first incident. That's going to be a problem for him. But throwing a punch, I don't care who you threw it at. He threw it at an assistant coach, but he threw a punch, man. That's a flagrant foul without question. That's a flagrant 2, baby. What will his punishment be? We've got a lot to talk about. Indiana is on the board playing tonight as well, so lots to talk about. Great show today, of course, as always. Don Fischer will join us. Charlie Miller will join us. Dustin Dopirak from the Bloomington Herald. We'll hear from Jim Reamer, see what went on this weekend in high school ranks as well. So we've got everything covered. We'll hear from Mike Woodson, Miller Kopp, Race Thompson. So it's a full show. We'll have to find out when we can sneak all that in, man. How are you guys doing? Get your questions in for the guys that are coming aboard. Indiana has to take on Ohio State tonight. There is so much to get going to talk about. Where do we start? Man, it's kind of hard to ignore Juwan Howard, but that has no bearing on Indiana. But that's certainly a topic of. I said this is the second incident for him. The Mark Turgeon incident, that was just a year ago, and that's the second time he's had a major blow up with a Big Ten coach. In only was this his second season? Or is this his third season? I can't remember. Which I'd be fine if I was a fan and my coach was, fighting for my players, and I don't mean literally fighting, but that's just something that just seems like a little too much to have that much going on that quickly. Was it you, John, that said the Fab five finger death punch? Or what was it?
Yeah, I wish I could claim that I made that up, but I saw someone else tweet that. But yeah, Fab five finger death punch.
There you go. Yeah, he threw the Fab five finger death punch. There, that's everybody jumping on. Ed, yes, ejected for going after Mark Turgeon. But was that in the middle of the game? I thought that was at the end of the game as well. The Mark Turgeon thing. Was that during the game? I I remember it, but I don't remember all the specifics. Charles jumping on. I haven't seen you before either, so it's good to see you. But he says he thinks the handshake lines are a good show of sportsmanship, win or lose. It's a game. Show your appreciation for the game and everyone. Man, if you can't shake hands after the game at the collegiate level, yeah, I think it's a problem. The people that say you get rid of those lines, no. If you get rid of those lines, then you're starting to erase lines in my mind. And those lines that you're erasing are sportsmanship that force you to, no matter what has happened during the game, you got to drop it and just go. You don't have to like it. You don't have to like it. I wouldn't like it, but shake the hands of the other team and go away. I mean, hey, I'm a competitor. I wouldn't like it either. It would make me sick. But it is what it is. The Silver Creek girls in the state finals again. Good for them. Didn't they win this thing? Was it last year? So good for them to go back. Southern Indiana girls. Let's see. So what do you think the suspension is going to be for and this is serious for Michigan. Michigan was making a charge into let me pull up the Big Ten standings again and make sure that is up to date. Boom, boom, boom. Get over to the Big Ten. Right now it shows Michigan at 8-7. They're not going anywhere. At 14-11. They were making a run to try to get back into the race to get not just for the conference, but to get into the NCAA tournament. Well, that's over now, in my mind. There's no way that that Juwan Howard is not going to. If I'm the Big Ten personally, it's the rest of the season. He's got to be gone, but that's not going to happen, I doubt. But I think it's going to be more than enough to put the clamps on Michigan's season. A lot of times teams will rebound around a coach in a situation like that, but this is going to be more than one game. And I don't think that they're going to be able to sustain that. They're currently 8-7 in the conference, 14-11 overall. I just don't think that. And the funny thing is, they're a game ahead of Indiana in the Big Ten standings, or half a game, whatever it is, because Indiana hasn't played tonight. But Indiana could move to 8-8 tonight if they were to get a win. If they were to lose tonight, they go 2 games under 500 for the moment. Which would not look pretty, because that would still keep them behind Michigan, a team that is not going to make the NCAA tournament. We'll talk to Don Fischer about this today, Charlie Miller as well, Dustin Dopirak, and get their thoughts on that. But that's where we are. Let me go over here and hit some, if there's any, make sure missed any questions. Yeah, will Howard be? What will the suspension be? What will the punishment be? I mean, it's a good question to me, because this being his second incident, and this is a serious incident, throwing a punch at another coach. Jack says Wisconsin has to share the blame. I'm not saying, and I don't disagree with that, but I'd like to know what the hell was said for him to throw a punch. I really do. If it wasn't, I just don't know. He just seems like he comes uncorked a little too easily, because this is the second time with a second different team that he's had a problem with. A serious incident that things go awry and he can't handle himself. And I'm sure it will come out what was said because there were too many people that was standing around there. I'm just interested in what was said. The guy that he hit, I think, I have not heard a single thing about anything racial being said yet. So I would love to know what was said that led him to throwing that punch. And he meant it. He didn't reach out to push him, to grab him. He threw a punch, and it was across another guy to try to reach him. So that's just going to be very interesting. Michelle says she saw Davidson did one of his signature elbow punches to the gut on Dickinson yesterday. That stuff happens in a game. I mean, trust me. I mean, we can bring on all the Indiana guys on here, and that stuff goes back and forth. Trust me, in a game, back and forth. But I would love to know what the situation was. Scott says, well, he's responding to something. Forrest says if Howard is not fired, he should be suspended for the rest of the season, at least 10 games for next season. I'm not disagreeing with that. It's got to be serious because this is his second infraction. And throwing a punch by a coach, man, who do we have to go back to? Who's the last coach that threw a punch? Remind me, in college, who come up? Who's a coach that threw a punch at an assistant? Scott replied, "No, it's not forced. The chair." Well, I think this must be comparing it to something else. And Bob Knight's chair. The chair could have hurt someone flying across the hardwood floor, especially the way he flung it. How is that different? Just because it wasn't an opposing team or coach. Getting the Bob Knight chair throwing thing in there somehow. I must have missed a piece of that, but yeah, well, there's difference in comparison. I don't think that was really going to hurt anyone because first of all, you saw it coming. Yeah, it could have hurt someone, but not seriously. And everyone saw it coming and stopped it. But this is just different. Bob Knight was just being an ass without trying to hurt someone. He was trying to show his ass without trying to hurt someone. Juwan Howard was trying to hit somebody in the face with a punch because he can't. I mean, to me, that exceeds pretty much all of the stuff that Knight did on the court. That exceeds Woody Hayes. At least the guy Woody Hayes hit was covered in football equipment. And he just kind of threw a half-hearted deal. This was for real, man. We got to take a break. Of course, lots more to talk about, but this is going to dominate things. Up next, the great Don Fischer joins us, the voice of the Hoosiers. We're back with that right after this from Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Southern Stone Restaurant, located right here in Bloomington, Patterson and Rogers. Tonight, you will not have the coaches show, obviously, because the team is on the road. Normally, Mike Whitson and Don Fischer are there each Monday at 7:05 for that. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
One thing I was close to bringing up, but I didn't really know if it was worth bringing up. But Forrest also said he thinks if this were Woodson, that he would have been fired already. I don't think that's the case.
No, I don't think so either. 0 infractions for Woodson.
Yeah.
and there has to be a lot more. I want to know what was said.
Yeah.
What was said to precipitate that? Because it's going to have to be something really, really serious. It's got to be really personal or racial.
Yep.
And I've not heard either that come out yet, and I don't know that you justify it, but to at least understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, dude, this is the second time you've went off like a crazy man.
Hey, look, Charlie, look at his picture he put up.
Look at Charlie.
You there, Charlie?
Hey, guys.
You got
Nice
a cute
photo.
picture up there.
Yeah, man. I figure I can make the photo a lot cuter with my daughter.
Yeah, it sure does.
So,
Man, how about your boy Juwan Howard?
Hey, you're kind of cutting in and out, Charlie.
am I? I know. Am I? I'm sorry about that.
You sound
am I
better
still
now.
cutting
You
off?
sound better now. No, you're good.
Okay. So that's what you get, man, when you hire and and again, yeah, you want to get an ex-player, but that's what's going to come with ex-players. That fire.
Yeah.
They don't know. I mean, the rules still don't apply. He still thinks he's playing. Man, you're free to do what you want to do as a coach. I'm calling a timeout for strategy. Why are you mad? It's not the freaking NBA. Damn, I'm a let the clock run out. What rule is that? I'm surprised. I mean, I'm just like wow. But also,
All right, here we go. Coming back.
Tell you the truth. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, we're good.
You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Monday. Coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. And being Monday, you know that means the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, joins us, and Charlie Miller is along as well. Don, how are you, sir? Traveling, I assume?
Actually, here in Columbus, Ohio. So we are here. I don't know if I'm doing this thing right with your Zoom phone call today, but can you hear me okay? Everything going good? It's
good? Loud and clear, my friend. You're loud and clear. Okay, we've got Charlie Miller along with us as well. In the break, we were talking about the incident with Juwan Howard. It was just shocking to see that. It's his second incident, but for a coach throwing a punch, man, that's kind of new territory in the Big Ten.
Well, it's certainly uncalled for, to say the least. I don't care what the situation was, to get a coach involved with swinging at somebody at the end of a ball game when they're walking away. And last year, if you remember, Mark Turgeon and Juwan got into a little scuffle at the end. It wasn't as significant as this one, but they had words, and Mark Turgeon was held back. I think Howard was too. So it looked like they were going to get into it last year. So Juwan's got a little bit of a history in regard to dealing with things like this at the end of ball games. And this should be a significant suspension of some kind. I would think that not only the Big Ten, but Michigan would have to do something in this case as well. And then there are going to be players that are suspended because there were swings taken by players after the swing that Juwan Howard threw. So whatever the circumstances were, I don't care. From a coaching perspective, you've got to be able to hold your composure. And maybe you're upset about something, but walk away. It's that simple. And I know Greg Gard tried to stop Juwan to talk to him or at least explain himself. I don't know what the case was. I don't know what was said there. All I know is you can't swing at somebody if you're a head coach, because you have just opened up a can of worms you can't close.
Exactly. And not only that, and not to use it for that reason, but Michigan is a team that Indiana is dealing with in the standings, and this could have an impact on that because they are a team that had games to make up, but had been playing well. They lost that game, of course, which was a big blow to them. But Michigan is a team that Indiana is fighting with basically in the standings.
Right.
And it will, in fact, it could have an impact on Indiana's postseason.
Well, it could. There's no question. Right now, what we look at from Indiana's perspective, however, is the Hoosiers need to get this thing turned around. They've had 4 straight losses right now. It's a ball club that is struggling with their confidence. There's no doubt about that. They hit one of their last 10 field goals against Wisconsin in a game that they were right there, had a chance to win. Second time this year they've had a chance to beat Wisconsin and couldn't get it done. And you credit Wisconsin for that without question. But at the same time, this Indiana basketball team, as Mike Woodson has pointed out many times, is still trying to learn how to win. And right now, that's a question mark in this ball club. And until they break out of this losing skid, it will continue to be asked, is this Indiana program in trouble?
And Charlie, tonight they go face a team in Columbus at Ohio State, and a team that they've beaten, and that's coming off of a home loss right now.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a dire must-win situation. You're hoping that the guys understand this, and I mean, this can, I mean, to me, this can make or break the remainder of your games because you need it. And again, when confidence is not high, as it happens throughout the season, it kind of dips. Who knows why? When you lose, it doesn't help. Now it's like every man on deck. Everybody needs to step up and do everything they can do, whether it's 1 minute, whether it's 20 minutes, to contribute and to create advantages for them to win tonight.
And Don, the Hoosiers have been shorthanded. Of course, Rob Finney has been gone for a bit with the plantar fasciitis and not expected to come back anytime soon. Christian Lander dinged up, the backup point guard, and they didn't have him the other day, and not sure what his availability is going to be. So that's going to change how Indiana's offense attacks Ohio State.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, and let's face it, the point guard position has been shorthanded since Finney's injury, and they've struggled because of it. And that's not to say that Rob Finney is the answer to their prayers in the sense of what he's capable of doing, but he makes such a difference, in my opinion, at the defensive end of the floor, and he gives Indiana some stability when he comes out there as the point guard offensively. Because he doesn't, Xavier Johnson, as everyone knows, very, very tough, very athletic, one of those guys that can do a lot of different things for you, but at times he struggles with his decision making, and sometimes he continues to shoot when he's struggling to shoot the basketball, as he did against Wisconsin, and that doesn't prove out to be a good thing either. But if you could have, Finney available, it kind of takes some of that pressure off of Xavier. So there are so many issues in that regard without having Finney right now. I think it really hurts this basketball team. But at the same time, somebody else has to step up, whether that's Trey Galloway, Anthony Leal, who knows at this juncture. Tamar Bates. I mean, somebody's got to step up and fill the void. And that's what this team right now has to find a way to get done.
Yeah, Charlie, tonight they go to Columbus to play Ohio State, a team that they have beaten. So they know that they can play with them, and they're coming off of that loss, like I said. So this should give Indiana some impetus of confidence going into Columbus, that they not only can play with them, but they've beaten them already, and that they've lost their last game there. Winning a game against an Ohio State team that is ranked and on the road would be medicine for Indiana like you couldn't believe for their postseason hopes. And what is it going to take for Indiana to get that job done tonight?
follow the game plan. I mean, I think it's that simple. Execution, follow the game plan. And now this is one of those experiences, what they call experiential experiences, where you need to learn how to win. And the only way you learn how to win is actually stick to what the game plan calls for. I mean, understanding every possession matters. Everyone plays their heart out. You know, you do what you do best. You delegate the rest. That, to me, from a player standpoint, is what they have to do. You know, and then afterwards, that checklist. Okay, did we box out? Did we do the small things that really will not show up necessarily on the scorebook, but it actually made a difference in the game, and we came home with a victory.
And Don, on the road now, this team has struggled. Playing in the Big Ten on the road is tough as it is anyway, period. But this team obviously has not had a great time on the road either. But this is an opportunity, playing a team that they have beaten already, and it is coming off of a loss. I don't know if that's good or bad for Indiana as far as Ohio State psyche or not, but they have to just approach it the fact that they have beaten this team and that they need this game, and they're capable of beating them. Even with the shorthandedness, they've got to stay out of foul trouble, obviously, but they have the ability to beat this team. Hopefully they have the confidence to do that.
Well, they should have the confidence to do it. They beat them 67-51 in the first meeting back in January. I think it was January 6th, believe it or not. And without question, they dominated Ohio State in this ball game, and I believe that they have that confidence level to get this job done. But this team was also looked fragile at the end of ball games at times, not being able to find a way to get it done as they did against Wisconsin, who they also had on the ropes the first time they had them. So again, this is an Indiana basketball team right now that's dealing with confidence and mentality. And all those factors that are involved in being a tough basketball team. And at the end of the season, and here's the problem that Indiana has right now. They are struggling very much like they did at the end of last year. And that feeling for the older guys in this team, or the guys that have been around for a long time, that has to be felt by these guys. And they've got to find some way to break out of that syndrome. And right now, with a 4-game losing skid, it's not going to be easy when you're playing away from your own home court and you're playing a team of this caliber. So this is a really important game for this team. Whether they win it or lose it, it's really going to be more involved in how they play this ball game, in my opinion. And can they come out of it, even with a loss, with some confidence? Because this team right now is struggling with that area more than any other.
Absolutely. And tonight they can show that this is something that they can show the committee, which you hate to think about that kind of stuff. But let's be honest, in this day and age, eye test matters. And a team like Indiana that's on the bubble, so to speak, last 4 in on a lot of prognostications, they need to show something. And this would do exactly that. It would kind of put them off of the radar if they could pull this win off. You'd kind of forget about the fact that Indiana is on the bubble, because this would be another good win for them, especially going down the stretch. And if they can then just take care of business with the games they have left, they would be fine, I think. But this would really put them over the top. That's what makes it so important to me. It would put them in a position of not being on the bubble. Don?
Right. There's no question. I mean, this is a critical ball game tonight. And because they do have a stretch here, they literally could win out. I mean, if they would win this ball game tonight, they could possibly win out. Now, granted, they're going to play Purdue at the end, and they got a Rutgers team that's really tough too prior to the Purdue ball game. But the other 2 ball games, Minnesota and Maryland, they've already beaten those 2 ball clubs. They've beaten Ohio State. So you can go into this last stretch with a lot of confidence if you could come away with a win here in this matchup tonight and break the scenario of this losing skid that they currently have. Right now, I just think this game is so important in that vein as much as anything.
Charlie, at the end of the season, a team catching fire, we've seen it happen, how important that is. What does this team need to do to catch that fire starting tonight at Ohio State?
Don brought up a great point, and it's actually overcoming that pattern that those players in their locker room, Don, and I know you know, that they probably have shared with other players. Man, okay, here we go again. You know, this happened last year. This happened, this time. That's a real conversation. But now here we go again. Needs to be, what are we going to do about it?
Right.
We need to pay attention. We need to now execute. We have a better team. We've proven ourselves on the road. We've played teams. We beat them convincingly. We need to go into that game with that type of confidence, not a false confidence, all hyped up, just playing every possession, taking care of business.
I think the other thing about this game, too, I think Indiana matches up really well with Ohio State. I really do. I hate that Finney's not available because I think he could take some of the pressure off of dealing with Branham out there, because I think that this freshman for Ohio State right now is playing as good as a lot of players in this league who are taking over ball games. The Ivy kid, obviously, at Purdue, Johnny Davis for Wisconsin. This kid's playing kind of like that right now. He had 22 points against Iowa the other night. So there's no question he's a talented guy. But really, I think this team matches up. Indiana matches up very well against this Ohio State ball club. And if Indiana plays like they did in the first matchup of this team, I think they're going to win this ball game. And I think they're going to – I'm not saying they're going to win it going away, because it's never easy, especially with a ball club as talented as and as well coached as Ohio State is. But I just think this is such a pivotal game for this Indiana basketball team. And I think it could change the whole complexion of this season with a win in this matchup tonight.
Yeah, and the key in the previous matchup, they were able to hold E.J. Liddell to 3 of 12 shooting. He was 1 of 5 behind the 3-point line. They did a great job on him. He only had 11 points in 32 minutes. He played almost more minutes than anyone, but they held him to 11 points. Did a tremendous job on him. Indiana outshot Ohio State. They did a good job with turnovers in that previous game with only 9. So they played the kind of basketball that boy, if they'd have done the rest of the year, we probably wouldn't be having our conversation would be different right now. But Ohio State is a team that I agree with you. They match up very well. They basically shut E.J. Liddell down. The most points that they had from any starter in that game was 13. So right. Indiana did a great job defensively. That's where they have to come back and do again, keep the defensive pressure on Ohio State tonight.
Well, that's the other thing, too. I mean, this team has made when they played their best basketball this year, they have played really well at the defensive end of the floor. And that's what they're going to have. That's where the energy has to come from tonight. That defensive effort has got to be there if this team's to have a chance to beat Ohio State. Because let's face it, the offense has been spotty all year. I mean, when they've played some of their best basketball at the defensive end, they have had to play good defense just to win. And I think that'll be the case in this matchup as well. I think defense will be the critical factor. If Indiana's able to keep Ohio State under control and then score the points that they normally score, they'll win this basketball game. But they've got to play the defensive end of the floor more important than even the offensive side, because they can win if they just play defense.
Absolutely. Make sure you're listening to Don. He'll be on the call tonight for Indiana at Ohio State on your local stations that carry the Indiana network. So make sure you're on that. And then next Monday, hopefully, are you back at Southern Stone next week for the coaches show?
We it's been so long, I can't remember.
Well, you know the way back there.
Yeah, somebody texted me the address of Southern Stone. I've forgotten where it's at. Yeah, we'll be back next Monday. We got 2 shows left with Coach Woodson at Southern Stone. The last 2 shows of the season, the next 2 Mondays.
And then tonight, make sure, like you said, you tune in for the broadcast for Don and Indiana taking on Ohio State. Don, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Great talking to you guys. See ya.
Thank you, sir. Don Fischer joining us. Charlie Miller. Appreciate you, man. Hope the rest of your day goes well. Indiana, what does Indiana need to do tonight to get this win?
Man, it started on the defensive side. I mean, I think that's, again, where, to me, we play really good and we get great stops. And then you make offense a lot easier. And then also take heed to really pumping and playing inside out, right? Putting pressure on them. I think we talked about that last time. My standpoint post-game, last game they played. Yes, sir. Yeah, they're going to have to put pressure on Ohio State, making sure they play inside out, pumping the ball to Trace. Hopefully Race comes through too. to play a strong game, and I think they can come home with the victory.
Charlie Miller, normally with us each Monday or for the entire show. We'll be back after school's over. But appreciate you, brother, and I hope you have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Have a good one.
You bet. Charlie Miller joining us, Don Fischer joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We've got plenty more coming up. Dustin Dopirak from the Bloomington Herald up next. Back with more, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
An Evansville tradition.
All right. I'll shoot Dustin a text, make sure he's still good to go. I usually don't have to remind him, but he's still fairly new to joining us weekly.
Where is the sectional draw? Oh, yeah, there it is.
Send Charlie a text, ask him if he's available forgot to ask him about post game.
Who that? Oh. There's the sectional draw.
Here's Mr. Dustin Dopirak.
Hey, my bad.
You're good. I usually have to remind a lot of people, so you're not the only one.
Okay, cool. My apologies. I remembered it this morning, and I forgot about it this morning, and now I remembered it again.
It's all good.
So, yep.
How are you, sir?
Doing good, Jim. About yourself?
I cannot complain.
Good deal.
How about our boy Juwan Howard?
Man, that was something else. I mean, he's like, I guess the thing is that's weird to talk about is like everybody likes the guy, and I see why. And like he seems like a good dude, and it's just like I think that's gonna save him. But I mean, it just looks worse when it's like that. I guess I don't know. Like if it's somebody you already hate, you're like, well, great, let's just run this dude.
All right, here we go. Coming back. Yeah. Sorry, Dustin.
MooreHonda.com. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday, brought to you by our good friends at Remax Realty. If you're in a home for the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore's 2 decades of experience. Could be the difference between you getting the home you want and not. Reach out to her at Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Joined now by Dustin Dopirak from the Bloomington Herald. Dustin, how are you, sir?
Doing good, Jim. About yourself?
Cannot complain. How was your weekend?
Good. Yeah, no, it had a nice free weekend mostly.
I was quiet. It was so weird. It
was a nice little bonus. Nice little bonus thanks to the scheduling shakeup that allowed us to bounce around a little bit. So
unfortunately, though, that means it's going to be busy as hell for the next week.
It is. Yeah. We're gonna be rolling.
Lots of games, and that starts tonight with Indiana traveling to Columbus to take on the Buckeyes, a team that they've beaten soundly. And I was talking to Don Fischer and Charlie Miller in the previous segment and had the stats pulled up. I mean, they beat Ohio State soundly at home. Of course, that always makes a big difference. They go on the road, but Ohio State's kind of, I don't want to call them a wounded animal right now, but they're in a little flux. They lost their last game at home. I don't know if they're subject where they are mentally, but if I thought Indiana was a stronger team mentally, I'd say Ohio State is definitely in trouble in this game, but I don't know where Indiana is.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the issue. Indiana in this case has the benefit of the fact that Ohio State it has to throw a lot of games in a short amount of time. I mean, like they're obviously, they had to play that makeup game on Saturday. I mean, they're catching up is the issue. So I mean, I don't know if it's 3 games in 6 days or 4 games in 8 days. I'm currently scrolling through the schedule to come up with the specifics of this answer, but the point is that they had to play a lot of games really quick. So since the 15th. This is their 3rd game in 6 days, and I think they play another one on Thursday. So they're right in the middle of a really tough stretch, and I think obviously there's some physical toll there, and I think that's really the driving force issue, and Indiana has to take advantage of that, frankly. And obviously the first time around they were fortunate also that that was Ohio State's 2nd game after their COVID pause, basically. So, they had a big break in the action, hadn't played a lot of games, but a lot of them had COVID. So they were also not 100% at that point. There was, serious, a lot of those guys had been sick and had gone through it. So they were still getting their win back, still getting their sort of endurance back. And Indiana obviously took advantage of that fact. I mean, Ohio State didn't seem to be 100%, but Indiana needed that game. Indiana played with a lot of fire. Indiana took advantage, and they had to do it again. It's a different reason. Obviously, it's a different kind of fatigue. It's not illness fatigue. We just played a lot of basketball games fatigue, so it's probably easier to find it back and to get your win back. But yeah, I mean, after they got handled by Iowa at home, I think that's their first loss at home. This is the time to pounce on Ohio State if you're Indiana, but Indiana obviously just has to get right. They had to be able to shake off that Tuesday game, take the lessons from it, positive and negative, and be able to play a better basketball game. But I think what looks well for them is that it's not a bad matchup for them. I think one of the most important things I kind of always look for is do you have a defensive matchup for their best guy? And in this case, Indiana does. I mean, Indiana has defensive options for E.J. Liddell and Race Thompson and Jordan Geronimo. And that makes a big difference. If you can slow that guy down, you have a shot at it. And basically when teams have been able to slow Liddell down, they've had a crack at it. They only gave up 11 points. I think it was 3 of 12 shooting in the first game. Again, that wasn't E.J. Liddell at 100% yet. And he's been, really phenomenal since. I mean, there haven't been many games where he hasn't been, on point. I think he had 15 the other day. So I mean, you can't presume you're gonna hold him down as much. But if you can keep him from blowing you up, you've got a good chance against the rest of them. And there's some talented guys, but I don't think there's anybody there they can't guard. So that I think gives them a fighter chance. They need some offense this time. They need their guards to play well. They desperately need Xavier Johnson to play well in this one, especially if Finney's definitely out, and it seems like Christian Lander might be too. You're rolling with one point guard, and X needs to play really, really well.
Well, not only does he need to play well, but he's going to have to play smart. And by that, I mean staying out of foul trouble. They cannot have him getting in foul trouble, obviously, with being thin at the guard spot. Something they'll need to do. But you hit the nail on the head. They have to have offense. And hopefully they can get it the way they had it last time. But E.J. Liddell is going to be healthier. As you said, he was coming off of an injury and just coming back. This team this is a golden opportunity for Indiana, and having beaten them before, I don't know what confidence it gives to them on the road, especially, but they've had that week off to heal, to get rested, and Ohio State has been playing quite a bit. So I don't know if that'll have much of an impact on this game.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, all of the above. I mean, I think that they needed some reason for confidence. They need something that they can tell themselves to feel better about what's going on, or just feel like, okay, there's not light at the end of the I'm looking for. But to have some belief going into these games that they can do this, that basically the season is not running away from them. And because they've had that feeling before, obviously that they collapsed at the end of last season, which ended not only them missing the tournament in the NIT, but then Archie Miller getting fired. I mean, they know what it's like to have to feel the bottom fall out. And when they're starting to see those signs again, they need something that will tell them it's not going to happen. Something they can use to tell themselves it's not going to go like that again this time. And that's one of those bits of information you can use going into this game individually, that, hey, we've beaten this team before. We're not incapable of doing this. We're not going to just collapse and fold and turn into a pumpkin here. We have a chance. We can go win this game. So I think that's again, that is something to derive confidence from. I think they derive some confidence against Wisconsin on Tuesday from the fact that they had almost beat them before on the road. And they played with a lot of confidence for a lot of that game. They just couldn't find a bucket in the last 5 minutes. And so obviously there's that piece again. I don't expect Indiana to go to Ohio State and fold. I don't expect them to get their doors blown off. But the difference is if they're in a close game in the last 5 minutes, can they find a basket? I can't say, because again, they haven't proven, the guards haven't proven they can be trusted offensively yet. And so you need that if you're going to win games late, and someone's got to come up with a big play. But because of, I think, the confidence they'll have coming in here, they're going to make this a game. And I think they're aware of their situation. They're aware that things are becoming increasingly desperate. And I think you're going to see at least a similar effort to what you saw against Wisconsin on Tuesday. It's just finishing it is a different question.
David, I meant this question for Don earlier, who was on with us, but I'll ask you instead because I missed it. Do you believe the Hoosier problems on offense is chemistry because their defense is there? They fixed the chemistry. Do you think they can go on a five-game winning streak? That's a lot to ask from this team, I will say, but I think they can win games and enough games to get into the tournament.
Yeah, no, it's not offensive chemistry. I guess it's offensive chemistry because it's if you think of it as, chemistry being the mixing of elements. And so it's I think people chemistry, the questions probably be asked of, do you think they get along well? They think they know how to put themselves up in good situations, but more to the point, it's what you're working with. And it's the elements you're working with and trying to combine into a compound. And that's the issue, is these elements are too simple. Basically. And, you're dealing with the biggest problem with this team is its guards are all pretty much one dimensional. They can either create or they can shoot. They can't do both. If you really look at, there's a site I use all the time. CJ Moore of The Athletic, when we were working together, pointed out to me, called hoopmath.com. And it's really simple, but it's basically, they just say how many of your buckets are at the rim, how many of your buckets are in the mid range, how many of your buckets are from three, kind of breaking that down. And, it is really striking to the degree to which you have your two best shooters in Parker Stewart and Miller Kopp go to the rim almost never. We're talking between the two of them, they don't have 10 buckets at the rim this year. You're starting two guard and small forward. And on the flip side, obviously, you have Xavier Johnson, who's a 34% 3-point shooter. Frankly, that's a better number than you would have thought. I think. He's hit more big shots than you would have expected, but he can obviously go cold because he just doesn't have great form there. He's a phenomenal creator. I think only he's gotten the rim 78 times, finished maybe 45 of them, 46, somewhere in that range. And almost every single one of those has come off the bounce. I think he's got 3 buckets that are assisted at the rim. So that tells you he's creating his own a lot. He's getting the rim a lot, but his 2-point jumpers aren't great. His 3-point jumpers certainly aren't great. And then you have Trey Galloway, another guy that can really, really create off the bounce, but he's not making outside shots. When Rob Finney was healthy, he had a little bit of both, but he's shooting around 30% for the whole way. And it's just, there is just not enough offensive scoring ability. It's good that they have spot up shooters. It's better that they have them than that they don't have them. But they had guys who were better at creating their own and making shots last year. For as much as we talked about how bad that offense was, Armand Franklin and Al Durham were both guys that could create their own space to hit threes, and they don't necessarily have that. So that's what you see at breakdowning at the end of the game, is you don't really have an answer. Xavier Johnson gets a huge amount of space to hit that three. I mean, Trace Jackson Davis makes what in a vacuum is the smart play. He brings, practically three defenders together and goes and finds the open man, finds out whose guy is cheating down, and tries to make him pay for it and gets the guy a wide open shot, but he missed it bad. Trey Galloway was another situation, previous opportunity that they did a good job of moving the ball, finding the open man. He had two defenders coming at him, but had plenty of space to make a three, and was just off. And those guys just, it's a good play in a vacuum, but it's not necessarily a great play when you look at what that guy's shooting from three. And so teams are defending that way. They're not leaving guys like Miller Kopp and Parker Stewart. But they're giving space to guys like LA and trusting that if they give them enough space, they're not gonna be able to get beat off the dribble. So there's just not enough, firepower, diverse firepower in the backcourt to burn somebody. And it's, it is chemistry in the sense that you just don't have the elements.
Yeah, I remember looking at the Big Ten statistics just days ago, and I believe Indiana is last in 3-point shooting, which would surprise no one. But that's here they are right here. Yeah. Defensively, of course, they're great. They're number one, but in 3-point shooting, they're dead last. 3-point field goals per game. That puts them last in the Big Ten. Yeah. Six. It's 6 versus 9 for someone who leads the league at Purdue. Michigan, not too far ahead. So, or not Michigan, but think about Ohio State. Ohio State, they're up there. They're in the top 4 of the conference. So, Indiana's perimeter defense is going to come into question tonight.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Ohio State's got some guys who can burn you, but they did a pretty good job the first time. Malachi Branham's a tough guy to deal with. Jamari Wheeler's a tough guy to deal with. Justin Irons is a tough guy to deal with. Irons obviously can make threes. I mean, that's what he's out there for. So they have a bunch of guys. Now, they don't have – I think Branham's going to be really good. Branham is going to be that guy that can create and burn you, eventually. He's pretty good right now. He's going to be really good eventually. But, again, I don't think they have anybody that Indiana can't guard. And on the flip side, I think they have all the pieces to defend you. And I think, for as much as they're lacking elements on offense, they have every element you need to be a really good defensive team. I think Rob Finney being out has been a significantly painful thing. And he is a guy that would really make a difference in a game like this. But with Johnson and Galloway out front, there's nobody. And then with Thompson and Geronimo playing the 4 and Jackson Davis at the 5, there's nobody on Ohio State's roster that Indiana can't guard. They can guard Liddell, they can guard Branham, they can guard Zed Key, they can guard Kyle Young, they can guard Jamari Wheeler, they can guard Justin Irons, they can guard Michi Johnson. All of those guys Indiana can guard. Indiana has a crack at it. Again, like I said, I think not having Finney costs you some depth, but I think you're still getting better defense out of Tamar Bates than you had been. Lander being out might help you, frankly, on the defensive end. I think he's still creating things on offense, but they're attacking him on defense. They are noticing him out there and they're saying, let's go at Lander. That definitely happened in the last game for sure. So not having him out there might be beneficial defensively. Again, I think he's getting to be a better offensive player. I think there are some people that are ready to write the kid off, and I'm not. I think he's still got a chance to be really good, but defensively, he's still not there. And especially against a bigger guard, they are attacking him. If he's not on the floor, then okay, that's one less guy you can attack. But again, that's one less body out there. You're gonna need a guy like Anthony Leal to defend. He's gonna be able to have to get out there, and he's probably gonna have to play some minutes, and he's gonna have to guard somebody. So I think that's really important. But their main guys they're gonna put out there, they're gonna be able to play defense well enough. Parker Stewart and Miller Kopp aren't great defenders, but they're the type of shooters that can run around with guys like them. And that's, I think a key piece of a defense is, can your guys who offensively just shoot the ball, can they at least guard other people like them? They can run around and they're not, somebody who can't break them down off the dribble, but is going to run around a bunch of screens. Are they going to be able to keep up with that? And I think Miller Kopp in particular has done a pretty good job with that. And I think Parker Stewart can. Parker keeps getting tough assignments on defense. So I think that makes him look like a worse defender than he is, but I think he can guard people like him. So I think they can keep up with a Justin Irons if you put a Galloway on a Branham. So I think they should be able to guard those guys.
Yes, they can, and hopefully they will. But the biggest thing is for Xavier is he has to stay out of foul trouble with Indiana being so limited at that front court. And we've seen that
He really does.
we've seen times attack him smartly but he's a good defender. But it's easy when you're the only guy. Boy, you pick up that second foul early, and that would put Indiana at a because we've seen it so many times.
Yeah, he really
critical guy picking up that second foul early, and it just puts them in a bad position.
Yeah, no, he really can't do it. It's a major issue for him. He really cannot get in foul trouble, and he has in the past, and he's had issues with that of reaching too much, of getting too physical. It's tough because he plays a physical game. I think that's the major issue. He plays a physical game, and like that, and a lot of just what he does is about being physical. It's about playing with a head of steam offensively. It's about getting downhill. And it's about getting into somebody on defense. And so like that leads to some fouls. And so it's tough to tell. And this is just true on both sides of the floor. It's tough to tell Xavier Johnson that he's got to dial it down a notch, because that's so much always part of his game when he is at his best. That's his best trump card is speed, physicality, athleticism. That's the part with him that's tough to stop. I mean, like you really, and I think because of some of the mistakes he makes, I think he's not appreciated as well as he ought to be, because there's moments when you see that he's got a gear that nobody else on the team has had, and nobody else on Indiana's team has had in a while. You watch him get downhill in transition. You see him blow past people. I mean, like if there's somebody that's running alongside him when he gets the ball, they're nowhere near him when he finishes. I mean, he can outrun just about anybody, with the ball in his hand, and it's a major important skill. So when he can get them going in transition, he's really good at that, and he's very physical defensively. He's very good at handling ball handlers, and so like he's got the physical capacity to be an excellent player and to make a lot of plays and to produce a lot. But I think from time to time, obviously, it gets him into trouble. He plays too fast. He thinks, he has plays where he doesn't think, he just goes. And that's worked for him in the past. And so he needs to slow down. Obviously, he needs to play a little more under control. But he can't get rid of that gear entirely. He has to know it's still there and be able to use it. I mean, he can't just be a stand at the top of the key and distribute type point guard. I mean, he's got to break defensive down because he has that ability, and that's important to have. And basically, Indiana hasn't had that at the level he's got it in several years. So I think it is a tough balance for him, and it is the question for him, and it has been for years, not just at Indiana, but at Pitt and going back with Bishop O'Connell and team takeover. It's always been an issue for him, is the fact that he's got such speed, he's got to use it, but he's got to figure out how to also play under control and balance those. But it seemed like he was really figuring that out for a while. It seemed like he'd really figured out that balance for about 4 or 5 games, and he's got to find it back. He seems to have lost it since the Illinois game. Hasn't been quite the same, and especially right now, he needs to find that, because that's the only way Indiana's got a chance.
Yeah, he's in a bad position because he does have to play with, I don't want to say blinders, but like I think it was the Northwestern game where he had 3 fouls.
Remember, he was suspended 5.
Okay, that's right. What game was it where he had 3 fouls and he drew the 4th foul just completely unnecessarily, 30 feet from the ball out in the front court? But
Michigan State. And that was a tough one. I mean, that 4th foul was tough. I mean, he got picked, and I don't know if he put a little bit more into, hitting the guy on the screen than he needed to. But not a lot. I mean, that was kind of a cheap one to give somebody their 4th foul. But yeah, I mean, he picked up a couple early, and you can't do it. I mean, like, especially if you don't have backups, and again, Trey Galloway, I think, has played, phenomenal basketball for Indiana this year. Not quite at this point. Still needs to learn that position. Has gotten thrown in the fire in a couple of games. Johnson is a point guard. He's used to running all the plays. He's used to getting people involved. And Galloway can. I'm not saying. I mean, obviously, and Galloway is a coach's kid, so it's not like he doesn't know things. It's not like he isn't a high IQ player. He's a very high IQ player. But he's a little, like 6'5", a little bit bigger, a little bit more rigid. It's easier to take the ball from him than it is to take it from Johnson. And again, he's just still figuring it out on the fly, and you'd just rather not be doing that in February. You'd rather not have a guy out there that's figuring out point guard on the fly in February. Like, he's done really well as a 2. He's guarded really well as a 2. Defending at the 1 is different. In terms of where you're getting screened, where that's coming from. I think he's done an excellent job of figuring out what he has to do or where the screens are coming from when he's a 2 or a 3 and guarding a 2 or a 3. And he's running off these double staggers and just running around the perimeter and trying to chase this guy. It's different when it's a 1-5 screen and you're trying to lock in on a guy with the ball in front of you and there's a 250-pound dude that's just coming at your side. And you need to know when it's there. It's a different kind of screen, and knowing how you're gonna jive with the big man, next to you. I mean, he hasn't been in as many of those situations this year, and he's still getting used to it. So the bottom line is Xavier Johnson has to limit those situations because Galloway is going to have to play the 1. I think they're saying Bates and Leal. Galloway's your next best option if Lander can't play, for sure. And so, but it's a tougher situation for him. So you want to limit those point guard minutes for Galloway and get as many for Johnson as you can. He's got the endurance for it. He's a guy that can play 40. It's just he can't. Fouls are an issue, and he can't pick them up.
You can follow Dustin, of course, with the Bloomington Herald. Also, you can see his stuff at the Indy Star right now. I think the last thing you have out is what you're watching is Indiana.
I've got a Gabe Cup feature this morning. Actually, we decided to run that. Didn't expect it, but no, I got to go out to Dayton to watch Gabe. And he's a fascinating kid. His dad's his coach. Basically, they have a really cool connection. It was really cool to watch them. I went to I didn't see a practice. I got to see a film session because it was the day before the snowstorm hit. And but I got to sort of watch those guys in action together, and then saw him play a game a little bit ago. So I got to write a little bit about Gabe, and I think he's a guy that Indiana fans should be really excited about. He's a guy that's really good at controlling a basketball game. It's sort of fascinating to really watch the intricacies, I think, of his game. So I wrote a lot about that, and that's in the paper this morning, so you guys can check that out. Or not in the paper, I'm sorry. It's on the website. It'll be on the paper tomorrow. So
that sounds great, and I look forward to that as well. So that's going to be something big. Is it unfair comparison? Neil Reed just comes to mind every time I look at Gabe Cupps, and the fact that he's playing for his father, that's just another thing. And I mean that in a positive way. He just seems like this scrappy kid that just does the stuff that needs done.
Yeah, but it's not just scrap. I mean, so here's the thing. Like I don't have as much of a basis with
talented. I should have said talented, scrappy kid is what I should have said.
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, I don't know Neil as well, and I think obviously Neil Reed is just a loaded term, I think. But the bottom line is yes, he does all the small things, but it's also what I found fascinating watching him. There's no eyewash, if you know the baseball term eyewash, where it's there's it's diving on, it's really demonstrative, really sort of over the top with the floor slapping or whatever. That's not Gabe. It's a really sort of fine, high IQ game, but you keep watching him and you see it's just little hand gestures, and he just sort of directs everybody else. Even when the ball is not in his hand, other guys look at him and he'll point in 2 directions or whatever, and then the ball goes. The ball goes where it's supposed to go. And a little kind of cool thing I saw was they were facing a baseline out of bounds. The other team was taking it out, and one kid was 3 or 4 feet to the right of where he's supposed to be, and then he looked at Gabe, and Gabe was no, over there. And when the play worked out for them defensively, made a point to go tap the guy in the shoulder and say, "Hey, good job." To be all right, you listen to what I told you to do. You did the right thing. But it's he's subtle. I think is the thing that I find interesting. And so is his dad. And they connect in such this cool way. And I saw them in this film session that I thought was cool too. They showed a play that got the ball where it was supposed to be, and a kid missed a layup. But they wanted to show this play works. And the kid, they were laughing at the kid for missing, but so they both made a point of saying oh man, you're way better than that. It wasn't about that. And Gabe pointed out hey man, you just made a left-handed layup yesterday. And they were, it was really cool the way that they lift guys on that team up. And so there's a reason why Centerville, unless something changed in the last game I saw, they're undefeated. They beat everybody, and they're just a public school team. But they just, they have just a cool dynamic over there. But it's just high intellect. It's well studied. It's just great skill. He's so two-handed, and he's been a kid that could play with his left since he was 8. And so there's just a lot of cool things about that. So I can't say he's not like Neil Reed. So I don't know Neil at that stage, but and I don't know too much about his dad either. But they're really 2 cool, calm and collected guys that are very cerebral when it comes to basketball. And it's made this very cerebral basketball team that just kicks the crap out of everybody in Division I in Ohio.
Yeah, that's the kind of kids that are coming. I went and saw Jalen Hutchifino, and I had the same. He just reminds me of one of those lizards that has the eye range that goes way far around here, where you can just see so far. I'm like, you can almost see it, and I'm like, wow. But that's the kind of recruits that are coming to Indiana. So
that's the best way I've ever
way.
heard a lizard uses, like description as a lizard uses a compliment. I think that's the first time I've seen it done. I was not sure where you were going, but like I see, I get it now. And that is it is a high compliment. I wasn't sure where it was going when it started, but you got it there.
Oh man, barely. Thanks, brother. I hope you do well, and we'll look forward to talking to you again,
in a
especially.
few hours, so we'll see then. All right.
Have fun, buddy. Dustin
Thanks,
Dopirak from the Bloomington Herald. We appreciate him as always. We've got more coming here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Start the new year.
Hey, I've got up close video of the Juwan Howard Greg Gard exchange, and you can hear what they're saying to each other.
Ooh. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Would have never happened. And let's see, because I know this will be a short segment.
Yeah, you'll have about 8 minutes. You see, you can address this one more time with that video, and then you can bring Jim Reamer on after we break again. Talk about high school hoops.
Well, actually, no, we've still got Woodson, Kopp, and Thompson.
That's true. You got that too. I keep forgetting. I have all three of those ready too. Yeah.
The last segment, we can talk about the draw.
The high school basketball. I'm very pissed my pants.
Well, go
when Jim Reamer gets on. No, I'm gonna wait till we get back from break, and then I'll wait till Jim Reamer gets on because you're not gonna have anybody on right now.
Oh,
and you'll need to pull up the Juwan Howard video anyway, or you'll need me to do that. Once basketball ends, you need to come down to Southern Indiana and grab some Bubba's.
Oh, I will.
You know, in a month, I will have worked for you for a year. A month from yesterday. Isn't that weird?
What is yesterday?
The 20th.
February 20th.
March 20th. Or it might have been the 22nd.
Really?
It was either the day before or the day after my wedding anniversary. That's how I remember.
The day the show got better.
It wasn't better at first. It was a struggle for a while because I was using that laptop. That was horrible. But once we got the new equipment, once I moved into this house and got everything stable, then the show got better.
These aren't kids. These are being kids. These are people that are being paid to pay now.
That's true. All right, 15 seconds. Remember, I've got the audio of the Juwan Howard Greg Gard up close.
Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. It is Monday. Indiana Sports Beat Radio brought to you by our good friends at Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. That's all it takes is this right here, baby. A little mouthpiece that's small enough to fit into a teeth whitening tray. If you have problems with snoring, look them up. Indiana, or Bob Knight's first recruit, Dr. Steve Green, former dentist, and Brian Evans.
We're heading that up Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic, and it works. It'll help you stop snoring if you have that problem. Reach out to them. I was replying to a text that said that they were strongly against reporters asking the players about the incident, talking about the Michigan incident in post-game presser. Just putting kids in a really dangerous and tricky spot to say something emotional and harm themselves or their image. What? Well, their image? They're getting paid now. So they're supposed to be paid and protected? Sorry, it doesn't work that way. It's you either open it up or you don't. I mean, you don't get the best of both worlds. It's if you want to act like a professional, you are going to be treated like a professional, and that includes being asked questions. Why can't they be asked questions? Really? They're not smart enough to be able to answer? They're smart enough to sign NIL deals. They're smart enough to take paychecks. So I disagree with that. I'm answering that text right now. Ever done that before on the show?
While he's doing that, I've got some video I want to show because we had a lot of people talking about early on, or we were all talking about what might have been said between Juwan Howard and Greg Gard. And in this video I'm about to play, you can hear, if you listen closely, what they're saying to each other. So here it is. It's kind of tough to make out. I need to pull up a tweet that had that video on it because also
Juwan Howard was upset that Wisconsin had called a late timeout. I think Michigan was still pressing. I couldn't hear exactly what was said, but I did hear one thing.
Juwan Howard said, "I'll remember that," as he was walking past Greg Gard. So he did.
He's referring about, but he's referring to the timeout, I believe.
And then Gard responded with, "You're going to press," and that's when he touched Juwan Howard, and that's
there you go. So he called the timeout because they were pressing. You know what? I'm like, okay, tit for tat, baby. That's if you're going to do that, then you got to take it. So I have no problem with I don't have a problem with Juwan pressing, but you know what? I don't have a problem with Greg Gard calling a timeout. Do what he wants to do. I mean, that's on you. Now, I think Greg Gard did grab him first. It looks like it to me. If you replayed that, it looks like he grabs him because I do hear after the fact, after they're already separated, "Don't touch me" or "Don't put your hands on me." Don't touch me. Don't touch me. At the same time saying don't touch me, he has a hold of Greg Gard. But it was after I think he touched him first, and he did let go of him. But he should have never done that. Greg Gard's going to get hit for this too. You can't put your hands on another coach, period. You can argue, but you put your hands on somebody, it changes it right now. And I don't care if it's in a violent, if you just do this, man, you grab me like that in a situation that's getting heated, that heats it up fast. So there's going to be punishment doled out both ways. Now, it went further after that. That could have just been it. It could have been over. Greg Gard was either gotten away or moved away at that point, and then the assistant. Why is assistant coaches just always got to get their mouth in, it seems like. So, but where it went from there, that's going to be a bad deal. But does that help Indiana? I don't know. It is interesting because it's coming at the end of the season. Wisconsin could be without Greg Gard for a game or two. I don't know. But he is going to – there's no way he escapes punishment from this. Juwan Howard, obviously, more punishment for throwing the punch. But I think both sides are going to get hit with this. Now, does it affect their season? I don't know. We'll see. Do we have enough time for any of the clips, or we need to go ahead and take the break?
We can do one clip. We're still waiting on Jim Reamer, so we can go ahead and do one if you want.
Mike Woodson talked about tonight's game as they travel to Columbus. They're already in Columbus. Don Fischer was on with us earlier. Is there already waiting? Let's hear what Coach Woodson had to say about tonight's ball game.
Both got to be great. I don't think you can do one without the other in order for us to win. We've been solid defensively, but lately we just have not been able to make shots. And we just got to keep working at it, man. We got to keep shooting in practice and doing the things that hopefully they can get us over the hump. That's the name of the game. But you can't think that you're going to go outscore Purdue or Ohio State. You're going to have to defend those guys as well. So you got to have both parts.
And defending is what they did well against Ohio State last time. Like I said, they held E.J. Liddell to 11 points on 3 of 12 shooting. 3 of 12. 1 of 5 behind the 3-point line. So we'll see if he gets heated up tonight or not. That's going to be important for Indiana. We'll find out about that. Hey, we got lots more to talk about, including Juwan Howard, but also the IHSA sectional is out. So all kinds of things to get to. If you got any questions, pop those in as well. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our friends at Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
All right, guys, I'll be right back.
Jim, last night we went live with our
Yes,
podcast.
Sir. Yes, sir.
We streamed it on Twitch. And then we put a link into our Zoom room. That was a mistake.
Why?
We put that on Twitter. And so what I normally do is I expand the window to a full screen. Then on my Mac, I move it off to one side. They have the multiple desktops. So I had the Zoom room off, basically out of sight. We had a naked belly dancer in there for who knows how long. So we had to, and then we got bombarded with bots and anime.
This is the story we got to.
That's fine, and that's fine. We recorded 2 episodes yesterday. We recorded our normal episode yesterday morning, but didn't publish it till today.
Is the naked belly dancer still on there?
The stuff we did last night. No, we deleted that. No, we deleted the video. So the stuff we did last night, she was not attractive. The stuff we did last night, we produced right away and published right away because it was, of urgent. Not of urgency, but the draw was last night, so we wanted to get stuff up right away. Especially since we didn't go live, we ended up not being able to do most of it live. But so today's title for our podcast that I published this morning was called "The One Without Nudity." So.
That is freaking funny.
Yeah, we learned some lessons last night. Luckily, these things aren't governed by the FCC, or I'd probably be paying a fine right now. But
that's hilarious. That is freaking hilarious. You didn't hear what happened, John.
I heard the naked part, and that's
we had a naked. We did a naked. We didn't do naked. We did a live stream last night. And then the mistake I made was putting the Zoom link out on my Twitter feed for people to pop in.
Yeah.
Without putting in like extra controls.
Oh.
And then moved it out of view because I just do that normally. And then next thing I know, I go check the feed and we've got a naked belly dancer in there. I was like, oh dear God. So we had to restart. We had to start a new Zoom room during one of the commercial breaks, which that was fine. We could not get feedback up. But we had. I went back in and deleted that video, so there's no real evidence of it.
All right, here we go.
Valentine's Day will be here before you know it, so don't wait until the last minute. Come into Brinker's Jewelers, voted the Tri-State's best jewelry store 9 years in a row, located at the corner of Green River Road and the Lloyd Expressway.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sillersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. Looks like an absolutely beautiful day. It's going to be up in the 60s here in central Indiana. I am stoked. Jim Reamer joins us from inside
Courtside, Indiana.
Courtside, Indiana. I had it wrong way. Courtside, Indiana. He's got me all befuddled by a story that they did on their show last night, titled "The Naked Belly Dancer."
Well, that's
the show coming to me towards you soon.
Yeah, we did a live. No, it's not coming to anybody. We got rid of it. We did a live broadcast a live feed last night for the state tournament draw, and we did it on Twitch because we don't have enough followers on YouTube yet. We really have not done anything with video. We've definitely not done anything live yet. So I learned some lessons last night, but we put the Zoom link. We've done Zoom. We do Zoom for everything, but we've had some coaches on in the past, like joining us, our normal group of people that normally podcast. But last night we just put it out to the public. And the thought process was that just, people who follow me would hop in. Little did I know that bots and weirdos would pop in, and I normally put my Zoom room off to the side. I don't pay attention to it because I'm usually flipping through notes or flipping through websites or something looking. And next thing I know, I check that feed and we've got a naked belly dancer in our Zoom room. So that was also going over Twitch. So I don't think Twitch cares. I don't think the people in the Zoom room cared. It was pretty much an isolated situation. So we ended up ending that room, starting a new Zoom room, and then we couldn't get the feedback on Twitch, so that kind of stunk. So we ended up not doing 3/4 of that thing last night live. But we learned some lessons. And then I checked my email, and I had all these emails from Zoom saying, "Hey, you've gone live with a broadcast. You might want to put up certain controls." And it's like, oh, okay, now I know. So
wow, yeah, now you go. Wow, holy!
I was worried about I was worried about audio. I had everybody muted except for the co-hosts, and I was worried about people coming on dropping F-bombs.
You didn't have that belly dancer muted, baby.
Did not have the belly dancer muted. No, I did not.
She was speaking with her body.
She was unattractive.
Man, that's nothing worse than that.
Sure, it was a video just like a bot that I don't know. We had all kind of weird stuff.
The sectional draw was yesterday. We'll get to that now, and later in the next segment, we'll get back to we'll hear from Miller Kopp and Race Thompson and talk about Indiana and Ohio State. But the sectional draw yesterday, nothing. I mean, the sectionals are what they are, really. Sometimes you get a bad first round draw, or I guess you can get a bad draw all the way through.
Cathedral got screwed. I mean, there's no way to go in sectional 10 without a couple of those guys getting the tougher end of it. They've got to play North Central, then the winner of the Tech Lawrence Central game, which would presumably be Tech, which then would be their third matchup. And then the winner, then they would face either, if you go by favorites, Lawrence North or Warren Central in the final. So Cathedral's going to have to win 3 really good games, to get out of that thing. And, North Central will too, but I guess I just was going with the IU slant since Booker's got that offer, and I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. Fischer's did not get a friendly draw. Jalen Harrelson. They got to play Westfield. Braden Smith's healthy. He's back playing. Then they get the winner of Zionsville, Noblesville, which on paper would be Zionsville, and then they would get they would get HSE, actually. Nope, never mind. Zionsville's got the tough end of that stick. So
you got my Highlanders down in the south end, down in southern Indiana. You got New Albany, Floyd Central, Jeffersonville, Bedford in that sectional. That's Floyd should come out of that, but that doesn't always happen.
They should. Their one loss to Brownstown was interesting. I mean, Brownstown is very good, and they will contend in 3A. And Jack Benner's son is really, really good. I think IU needs to be looking at him. 6'4", 6'5" shooter, probably has some growing left to do. Scored 37 on Floyd Central, including the game-winning shot. But then I found out their best player, Caleb Washington, didn't play. So it did sort of change the light on that game a little bit.
That's still a lot of points to score in a high school game.
That is, especially Sturgeon does such a good job defensively. You know, I'd made a comment about maybe there's you wonder about 37 is a lot of points. I mean, I still think Benner has some things he has to show before high majors get involved. And Floyd Central, as good as they are defensively, they don't have that one guy that you think, okay, he's a D1 guy. You know, that he's a D1, especially defensively. But Caleb Washington didn't play, and he's at least the one guy who has size and the ability to contest what Benner would be successful at doing.
The thing about this year's tournament, no one's jumping out at me, and which is great. I love that. I love the fact that it's kind of, hey, let's roll the dice, baby, and see what happens.
Well, it's what I've said in the past, and I think it's playing out that way. The senior class isn't very deep, and the junior class, to me, doesn't have any big-time players who can carry teams, especially at the 4A level. I mean, I think you've got some, like Northwood has a really strong junior class, and their best player is a junior who carries them for sure, Cade Brenner. But as far as the 4A teams, you know, the big school teams, there's just not there's a lot of parity for sure, and the junior class, for the lack of a guy who might be able to carry a big school to a state title, is extremely deep. So we've done this deal on our podcast through the last few weeks. It seems like anytime we really talk about a team, they've all got a good group of juniors. And so that's what you're going to see next year, is you're going to see even more parity, because the sophomore class is just and it's not as top heavy as 2022, and it's definitely not as deep as 2023. And then you get the class of 2025 that will be sophomores next year that'll come in behind it. So you'll see a lot of senior laden teams next year who will be vulnerable because they don't just have that stud who can really carry them through and put a team on their back. At least not that I've seen so far.
In 4A, who would you pick as a favorite? You got to eliminate Carmel. Besides Carmel,
well, until you beat them in March, how are they not? You know, I mean, they're Sagarin number one, although I haven't checked an updated rating yet. They did lose to Warren Central over the weekend. I mean, look, you look at sectional 10, you look at sectional 8. Sectional 8 is Carmel sectional with Fischers, who's 20-2. Westfield with Braden Smith going to Purdue. Zionsville is spent 5 weeks at number one earlier in the year. You look at sectional 10, the thing we just talked about with Lawrence North, Cathedral, Tech, Warren Central, and I've yet to name the Marion County champs, North Central. So you've got a lot of options starting there. Ben Davis is playing awfully well. Floyd Central should come out of the South. They should have a pretty clean path to the semi-state. I mean, look, Bloomington South is well coached. Bloomington North will certainly be a challenge. I just think Floyd's got more pieces. They're bigger, and they're certainly well coached. But
what about Center Grove, Franklin Central, anyone over there?
A lot of averageness. Shelbyville's no. The Greenwood sectional, the best team is Whiteland at 14-8, and they don't play nearly the schedule that Center Grove does. So I think a lot of people would still view Center Grove as the favorite. Not that Whiteland couldn't jump up and beat them. Franklin's got a wonderful sophomore, Micah Davis, but maybe not yet ready to carry a team against juniors and seniors just yet. Obviously, Chesterton up north is one of the only 2 remaining undefeated teams in the state. They certainly have proven themselves to be the best team in the region for sure. And I don't see anybody across the northern part of the state like going over to Elkhart. Penn could challenge them in a regional. Homestead, certainly, we can't count them out with Lawyer. So you're a lot of the familiar names, other than Chesterton being so good this year. I think we thought they would be good this year. We didn't know they'd be undefeated going into March, but here we are. So,
but you know what? It's fun. The sectional draw is out. That means basketball. You can go out and watch your local high school team, which you should, because there is nothing funner than the Indiana high school basketball tournament. Right behind that's the NCAA basketball tournament. They're just 2 great events. And if you look at the NCAA tournament, it looks a lot like how the Indiana tournament is set up. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that, baby. They do it well. It's gone on for a long time, and it is certainly fun when it hits. It's just a great time of year, and I can't wait for this to start, because like everything else, there are upsets, and who makes it through, who's going to wear the crown. And this year, like I said, is one of those seasons where, man, it's going to be even more exciting, I think, because you just don't know who's coming out of where.
Totally agree.
Let's see, where are we? We're not quite at time, and we don't need a break just yet. So what about up north? Chesterton, of course. I guess you'd consider them. Are they the northern team?
Yeah, I went up there. Look, they're regional. It could be Hammond Central, who's very athletic and have a talented guard, Jordan Woods. That could be their regional. Chesterton sectional is not easy. The way it played out, the top 4 teams should all get to the semifinals. So you'd have Portage, Valpo, Chesterton, and Crown Point all in a position to play basically a Final Four. And there's not going to be an easy game for Chesterton except for their first game. It's 22-0 versus Lowell, who's 0-20. There's nobody really out of the Plymouth sectional, which is primarily South Bend, Michigan City schools. Michigan City's got a really good junior guard, but I don't think he's going to be able to put them over the hump come regional time. They certainly could win the sectional. The Elkhart sectional is Penn. They're going to be the heavy favorite, although the toughest game for them on paper would be their first round game against Warsaw. So that's the northern regional. And you could very well see Chesterton coming out of that thing undefeated. You could very well see them getting beat Friday night of the sectional. It's like you said, like we alluded to earlier, there's a lot of parity. Carmel's going to have to get out of a very difficult sectional this year. Homestead's probably the only team in the regional who could challenge them, the winner of that sectional. Look, Zionsville, Westfield, Fishers, and Carmel, along with Homestead, would be probably the four favorites or 4 or 5 favorites to win that regional. Of course, only one of those other 4 teams are going to come out of the sectional. So, that's basically your north right there. And, Braden Smith will be the best player in the Noblesville sectional. So Westfield definitely is going to be a threat. And they won the Hall of Fame Classic this year, kind of dismantling both their opponents, including Cathedral, in the final game. And Zionsville, along with Westfield's healthy now. So, everybody's kind of right where they want to be heading into March. And I stick with Carmel until they get beat. So, I get to watch a lot of good basketball, including the sectional play at Noblesville.
Looking forward to it, man. It gets started this week. Hey, we've got to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got more to get to. We'll hear from Miller Kopp, Race Thompson, Indiana, taking on Ohio State in Columbus tonight. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about this weekend's matchups, what happened, who beat whom, and, of course, Juwan Howard. We can't escape it. That's a big topic of conversation today. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Reynolds Family Dentistry down in Sellersburg. If you're looking for that championship smile, go see Dr. J. He'll give it to you. Back with more from Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration. Whoo, he's going to get in trouble.
How did he not get fired?
That's a good question.
I mean,
someone
didn't
else
he
said
threaten?
earlier that they thought if this was Mike Woodson, he'd be gone. But I mean, and I disagree. We talked about this earlier because Juwan Howard, this is his second offense of something.
Absolutely.
Like this.
Didn't he threaten?
Yeah, we played a video earlier. I can actually play it for you right now. I won't go over the air. You can kind of hear what they said to each other.
Yeah, I saw that from last night. It kind of sucked because that came on after we recorded our normal pod.
Oh yeah.
But then when we did the live stream, there was, during the commercials we did during the state tournament draw, we talked a lot about it. So
yeah,
I just don't see how he doesn't get fired. I mean, it'd be one thing if he was out there protecting a player and he got a little overzealous, but he's the instigator here.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was Knight, he'd been maybe not in his prime, but in his, the way that all went down. I mean, I don't think coaches are in a position where they can just start striking people and keep their jobs.
Absolutely not. But and in my opinion, it's going to be something. It's going to be similar to how they dealt. And I know it's not the NCAA's decision, but it's going to.
John, see if you can pull up the Mark Turgeon. John, see if you can pull up the Mark Turgeon one, because didn't he say he
threatened him?
He threatened him.
He threatened to kill him.
You've got him threatening to kill a coach in one season and hitting an assistant coach and trying to hit an assistant coach the next season. I'm like,
well, John Chaney threatened to kill Calipari. So,
well, I understand that though.
a long time ago.
Understandable. It's a little more understandable.
Back then,
I'm surprised. Did you see the photo of Calipari getting in the referee's face? He was like literally like forehead to forehead the other day.
No, that's a good one.
I don't think he got thrown out or anything, but
can we yell at
Calipari's the only coach who can get away with doing stuff like that and not get thrown out or a technical.
I can't see Calipari striking anybody.
Well, I'm not talking about the punch. I'm talking about going forehead to forehead with a referee like that.
Oh, sometimes it depends on your rapport with the official. I've gone cheek to cheek with one.
Really?
Basically yelling in his ear, screaming it, or like yell. Well, I mean, like
yelling in his ear. Called cheek to cheek.
Yeah, not the same kind of cheek to cheek though. I've gone cheek to cheek with an official, yelling in his ear, basically cussing out his shoulder.
So, all right, we got 10 seconds.
I wasn't whispering sweet nothing.
If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. It is Monday. It's a beautiful Monday in Central Indiana. It's going to be up into the low 60s. I will take it. Forgot to mention yesterday the Daytona 500 happened, of course. Austin Cindric, rookie, wins that, man, just barely over Bubba Wallace. And third place was Chase Briscoe from Mitchell, Indiana, right down the road. So he came in third. He was up there battling at the end, and that was a fun race to watch. And when you have it's always crazy when that race produces some crazy winners. Trevor Bayne, who's not even racing now, a few years ago won it, was the youngest ever, and Austin Cindric becomes the second youngest ever to win it. A lot of luck goes into winning that race, baby.
Yeah, I'm not a big race fan. I'm probably the worst guy in the world to talk about racing.
But all happened.
I've only been in town Memorial Day weekend once in the last 32 years.
That's because you have belly dancers. You got naked belly dancers to deal with.
I kind of
so that's why you don't understand. You're not dealing with that.
Not the one that showed up last night though. But
of course, we've been talking about Juwan Howard, and his suspension it has to be for the rest of the season at a minimum. You would
how he's
think,
not fired.
right?
How is he not fired?
And I agree, because 1 year ago he threatened to kill Mark Turgeon, which, you know, we've all done that. Who hasn't been in that scenario? Barging into threatening to kill a coach on national TV. Just kidding. But now though, he takes a swing at an assistant coach because of something a coach said. Now, I'd like to know what was said.
And he's unapologetic. Not even regretful.
But I haven't heard a single thing that leads you to believe that it was like racial or something that would really set you off.
I mean, he's not even apologetic about that. It got out of hand to begin with. I mean, he's already passing the buck to guard.
I think he knows it is at grass. I guess.
I mean, but he didn't even excuse it to the heat of the moment. He just basically flat out, it's what it is. This is how I'm going to be.
I don't know that he understands how serious it is. I really don't. He thinks that he's still on the floor in the NBA, where you'll get a fine or whatever, and that'll be it. No, that's not it.
If Harbaugh, if Jim Harbaugh would have struck somebody, he'd have been fired.
No, well, we've seen Woody Hayes. It's like the old Woody Hayes thing. Of course, that was an opposing player, but this is a second offense in essence, and on-court offense as a coach in 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. It's not like this is his 5th or 10th year. He's 2 for 2, baby. He is 2 for 2, and it is escalating. That's what in the criminal world they call that escalating behavior. He threatened to kill a coach 1 year, and the next year he takes a swing at one. Well, he has a problem with his temper. He can't control it. So,
which is surprising because he was kind of the calm, cool, and collected one of the Fab Five, was he not? I mean,
just taking a swing at a coach, though, man, gee whiz, that's wow, that's up there. I don't even know how else.
I can't take credit for this because I saw a bunch of it on Twitter last night, but it's just once again another Michigan guy having problems with timeouts. So,
well, he would know that too. He was on that team with us.
Absolutely.
With there, but yeah, it's just now you wonder how that has to affect the rest of their season. He can't. There's no way he coaches again this year.
Well, what about Dickinson? What about Hunter? And who was the other guy the other player who was there at the press table with him? What about those two guys? Those two guys are answering questions and trying to obviously not answer something, just trying to answer questions about the game. But are they thinking that are they upset with their coach because they realize that he's possibly, I mean, derailed is probably too strong of a word because I don't think any of the players, well, Diakate might get dinged. I mean, he started a flurry of punches on somebody against Wisconsin. And I didn't see anything coming from the Wisconsin side to suggest that any of those guys got physically involved other than just pulling people away. But I mean, if you're sitting next to your coach, I wonder if they were upset with him or if they just were, in towing the line. Because obviously,
they probably don't. They're probably in shock a little bit. But
yeah, I agree with that.
Here's what happened a year ago. Juwan Howard and Mark Turgeon, the former coach at Maryland, post game having a little issue as well.
One technical, but here is what happened. See Juwan Howard starting to yell out something at the other side, and then there was some jawing back and forth between he and Mark Turgeon. Look at this. I mean, it got really testy, Sean.
It did, and the officials did a good job of stepping in before what was a bad situation could have gotten progressively worse.
He's got to be physically held back. I mean, this is 2 for 2, baby. Yeah, this is 2 for 2. Second season. He's making Bob Knight look like a Sunday school teacher.
He's clearly instigating those situations too.
Yeah, and I'm not saying
the Turgeon one. Okay. And Turgeon's not exactly likable. at least coaching wise. I mean, I don't know what he's like off the court. I'm sure he's.
You can get upset all you want, but you know what? You gotta have enough sense, and obviously he doesn't. He had to be physically restrained again. I mean, he's got issues, man, and Michigan's gonna have to deal with that. There's just no way. The taking the swing, the being held back and bravado and all that stuff is one thing, but when you actually throw a punch, that's where it differentiates. But who's going to the Big Ten? It's going to be up to the Big Ten to discipline him. Of course, Michigan first to see what they do.
Well, that'll be the short run. The Big Ten will step in. We'll have to step in and do something. I mean, if Michigan doesn't announce a suspension here quickly, the Big Ten will. They would have to, right? I mean, but then I don't think you just outright. A university can't just fire a guy without having meetings, right? I mean, you can't.
Oh yeah.
They got to have. I mean, that's not going to be something.
You got to meet with lawyers, baby. You got to meet with the attorneys.
That's got to be something that's not going to happen today, but it could happen as quickly as this week. I mean, almost. I saw Blind Naked Ladies band Sloppy Joe's Bar. Yeah, you know what, Tebow? That she could have been part of that group. That's.
Oh.
I'm just glad.
Yeah, Howard could have just walked off the court instead of joining. Yeah. Yeah, he could have done whatever he want,
and could have said something in the press conference. Why, the post game? Why didn't you join the handshake line? I mean, look, COVID eliminated handshake lines for the short run. I'm cool with it. I mean, it's not even just from the standpoint of sportsmanship. I look down at the other team's coach. I mean, we've coached 2 summers with COVID. There's nothing wrong with me looking down at the other coach and giving him. A quick wave or a quick air fist bump or something, right after the game, then taking my team off the side. And then typically what I've done is gone over to the other bench or gone and found the coach later and, had an exchange with him, like a good exchange, like, hey, good game, appreciate your kids, or might say something like, I like number 20 or, whatever the things we say to each other after games. The handshake line, we just get rid of it. It's silly. It's for elementary school kids that just, I don't know. I think you would eliminate some of this stuff, and it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen enough. And these things do escalate, and you see what happens there. So
who's winning Mr. Basketball?
Oh, wow. That's a whole podcast. Paterology.
We don't have that kind of time.
No, I mean, we've already got that podcast out. You can go to the Courtside Indiana feed and check out Mr. Basketball projections.
Go do that. Give us a mix of your top 3.
It's the one thing that's a pure vote. So it is as democratic of a process as there can be.
And is that not this season like the 4A class kind of wider open than it normally has been?
No. I mean, it's going to be Lawyer. It's going to be Braden Smith. CJ Gunn has been the way he's been playing lately is making a case. I would have said up until the run that Gunn has been on that it was a 2-horse race between Lawyer and Braden Smith. But
does it depend on whose team goes further in the tournament?
Sometimes it can. Sometimes because there is no set criteria, and it's voting. So do Purdue it's media and coaches. So they those who vote for Mr. Basketball. I don't know if maybe past winners get a vote too, but media and coaches. And, among those, you're going to have people who are IU fans. You're going to have people who are Purdue fans. You're going to have people who are Notre Dame fans. Pick your college. And sometimes their votes are just as simple as the Purdue fan is going to vote for the Purdue guy. Well, if that's the case, then Lawyer and Braden Smith will split those votes. To what percentage, I don't know. But they will probably split those votes. No different than, Gunn might get a lot of votes just because of his IU commitment by people who haven't seen him play this year. But anybody who's seen him play here, especially in the last 6 weeks, that long? Yeah, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, have seen him play extremely good basketball. So, if not for his injury, he would definitely be one of the favorites. I think Travis Grayson up at Chesterton with the season they're having and the season he's having, he will get a lot of votes up in that Northwest region. So the question will be, we thought a lot of those votes in our podcast. We thought a lot of those votes were going to go to Fletcher Lawyer. So does now Travis Grayson take away from Lawyer's votes paving the way for Braden Smith or to slip in, or maybe a CJ Gunn. I don't think there's anybody in Southern Indiana who's going to get major consideration unless I'm just missing somebody. We're not even – I don't think Warren Central's had the kind of season where it tips like Deontay Davis, who's committed to Louisville. I don't see that getting him too many extra votes. A lot of people have asked about Peter Suter of Carmel because of the career he's had and especially the success in March. I don't think he'll get votes over Braden. He's certainly going to get votes. But, Travis Grayson injecting himself into this discussion with his play is going to be an interesting delineator between who votes for Fletcher Lawyer versus who splits how the Purdue votes are split. And I think that's what's going to cause. I don't think Grayson will win it, but I think he could cause Lawyer to lose it. How about that for an answer?
It's very interesting, actually.
It's like electoral. It's no different than electoral politics. Yeah, it really is. And that's how we broke down the podcast is each part of the state is going to vote a certain way. They're going to vote based on college affiliation. And then, like you said, some of them may just completely hold out and vote and see how they do in the state tournament.
Another thing that we've talked about in the past is seeding at least the top 2 teams in a sectional. See, I like that. I would much prefer that because teams that have 5 or 6 or sectionals that have 5 or 6 teams, I definitely think that they should have just the 1-2. Not you don't have to do all the rest of that crap, but just keep the top 2 teams separated and just make the sectionals better, in my opinion. But I don't know if they'll do that or not.
I don't know. There's only really one really bad instance, and that's the Kankakee Valley, where Culver Academy plays Kankakee Valley the first game, and then the other teams, nobody else in that sectional's won more than 6 games.
Well, this year, but I've seen it before where it's different. Like the sectional I'm talking about right there with Floyd Central a few years ago. Floyd Central, New Albany, and Jeffersonville were all ranked in the top 6, I believe. And I think Floyd Central had to play the first 2 right off the bat. And it's like, well, that's a ignorant sectional right there when you've got 3 other teams they're playing no one.
But then you've got, I know, but to me, it's too small of a field to matter. It really
there is, I get it. That's why I say just the 1-2, nothing else.
Right.
And to be honest with you, it should be teams that have, or sectionals that have 5 or more teams in it, but maybe it's just too much to screw with, but who knows?
Of course, the one egregious one is a 5-team sectional though. So that's the only bad thing about that. But like, how would you see the North Central, the North Central one and the Carmel one? The Carmel one was pretty balanced. Yeah, the Carmel one was pretty balanced other than HSC getting a bye. Obviously a team that's 9-12 wouldn't normally get a bye, but there's no way. There's no real, you could be objective and say, look, just use Sagarin ratings. That's fine. It does consider strength of schedule as a criteria in that instance. But at the same time, it still ends up being, unless you just flat out go with Sagarin, it still ends up being pretty subjective. And I don't know. Sometimes teams are bad because kids miss games, so I don't know that, I don't know that it would matter. Like if Jeffersonville's full strength, they would probably go into that sectional as the second best team, although they've had an awful year. I'm not sure what the status of some of their guys are this year, but they've had a really rough year as far as keeping guys on the court.
Indiana women have a game tonight as well. They need to bounce back. Had a tough loss the other day, trying to fight for a Big Ten title. They've got daggone it, Mackenzie Holmes back, so they're intact. They lost a tough one the other day, but first just got her back. But they should be ready to make a nice postseason run here as we get close to the end of the season. But they're going for a Big Ten title, so it would be nice to see them get that taken care of. Let's see. Any other comments, questions? Big Ten and NCAA. Oh, I thought you changed that, John. Same one. Nope. That's about it. So was this announced that Grace Berger's coming back for another year? Was that announced, or is that an assumption?
Something was on.
Somebody reported it. I don't remember if she said it specifically, but somebody else reported it.
Which that surprises me a little bit, but not, I guess. I think she's probably the best overall player in the history of Indiana women's basketball. She's just a complete player. Can she get better? Of course, she'll get better. Maybe that's what she needs, I guess, to play professionally. Maybe she's not quite there yet, but she's pretty damn good. But to have her coming back, that's great news for Terry Moore and for certain.
I mean, how many WNBA teams are there?
You know what? That's a great question.
And some of these girls got to be making, some of these women got to be making decent NIL money compared to what they might get paid overseas.
I've heard Grace Berger's doing not bad.
Yeah. I mean, they have other ways of doing that too now with TikTok, the way that's going. Because that's something that I don't think too many people have talked about that aspect of it. So we're being told
only 12 teams
in the WNBA.
Only 12 teams in the league. Wow.
Not a lot of jobs. That's a lot of competition.
That's true. That's right. You got to go play elsewhere. Hey, man, I cannot thank everybody enough. Thanks to Jim. Thank you, brother. Jim Reamer. Make sure you go to Courtside, Indiana for all of his stuff as well. Especially you can talk about the Mr. Basketball and all that. If you had the questions on that, he has a podcast there. Also, big thanks to Don Fischer, of course, the voice of the Hoosiers, Charlie Miller, our own All-American Dustin Dopirak from the Bloomington Herald. And we'll be back tonight with Indiana basketball after the game. So we'll see how the Hoosiers do at Columbus. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.